In this video, we're going to look at using nodes to create procedural textures. So with that said, we are going to switch from layout mode into shading mode at the top here. And what you'll have is you should see everything here. You're probably up that way. And we want to isolate this here so we can hit / on that. And down the bottom here, we're going to add a new material. This is going to add a new node panel down the bottom here with a principled BSDF shader and a material output, which sends output to the surface here. So these here, in previous versions of Blender, if you wanted to do all of this stuff here, you would have to have an individual node for each one, but the principled BSDF does it all. It's really good. You may want to check, by the way, that you don't have duplicate vertices here, because I found when I was doing the test for this video that I had 436 duplicate vertices, which was messing everything up. Easy fix for that: go into edit mode, select everything, and then F3 or space and merge by distance. And down the bottom, if it's all good, it should say remove 0 vertices, and if you're bad like me, it will say remove 500 vertices. I must have duplicated the whole thing at one stage. Now, what we've got in here is a whole lot of different options. So I'm going to give this a base color of just gray by pulling down this slider here. It's going to have a slight grayish color to it. I'm not going to worry about subsurface. That is like how the light enters into a material. So say, for example, your skin, if you hold a torch up behind it, you know, it glows red. And in terms of 3D modeling, that is the subsurface scattering. It's the light entering into your skin, which is translucent, and then jumping around and bouncing around inside. But metal generally isn't translucent, so I'm going to leave that at 0. But I am going to turn the metallic pretty much all the way up. Now, zoom in here so you can see this. Metallic is going to be turned all the way up. Specular is also going to be fairly high. Now, what the word specular means is I looked it up before because I wasn't sure. It is an object, or describes having the properties of a mirror. So something that's really high is going to be highly reflective. You might go, oh, I've turned this all the way up, but it doesn't look very reflective. It looks metally, but it's reflecting something. But it's not quite that reflective. That's because it also has roughness. And the rougher an object is, the more the light is dispersed over its surface. So very tiny little imperfections, the light hits it, bounces off in a different direction. So if something is less rough, it's going to be more and more shiny. So if I set it to 0 roughness, it's pretty much got this amazing little reflection on it. Where's that coming from? It's a default reflection that is in here. Now, I think there is a way to import your own ones, but I'm not going to play around with that. I'm just going to leave it at this one, which I like, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to turn that roughness up because I don't think it should be that reflective. And that is pretty cool. So now if I go / bring the rest of the model back, I'm actually going to name this material to be shiny metal. And I actually already have one, so I'm going to delete this and I'm just going to apply that there. Oops, I've got other stuff on here which I'll delete, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So there's my shiny metal texture. Now these rings, I'm also going to apply the shiny metal texture to, but I don't need to make a new material. I can just click the little down material slot and select shiny metal. Now I've got 2 of them. You should only have 1. Now this material here, what I'm going to do with it, I want this to be really shiny, but I want this to have some dirt on it. So I will make a duplicate of this. I can make a duplicate here, new material, and I'll call this pommel metal now. It's an exact duplicate of the other one, but now I've got 2 of them because I'm going to add some stuff to this, and I'm going to use some maths to do it. So adding these nodes, there's a lot to this, and it can get really complex really quick, but I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. I'm going to turn this up that way. So, well, I'll just keep it this way. What I want to do is I want to add some stuff to this so that the roughness of it is not just perfectly uniform, but it's going to be kind of have some parts that are really shiny, some parts that aren't so shiny. So I'm going to add a texture here, and I'm going to add a Musgrave texture down the bottom here. Now this Musgrave texture, if I plug that directly into roughness, you'll see some parts of the model are really rough, others not so rough. Okay, but we get this very, very, I guess, there's some parts that are really rough and then other parts that are zero roughness, but we can do something better with that. And I think that if I add what is called a color ramp, it should be under color. No, it's not actually under color. I'll just type in ramp and the search, add a color ramp. And if I click in the middle here, it will add it in between the two places. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from linear to constant. And I'm going to move that like so. Actually, no, that's not what I want. I want linear. But I'm going to pull the black one forward more and the white one forward more. I'm actually going to change this white to be gray and the black here to be kind of gray as well. I will change the white one to be more white, like that. Now what this is going to do, it's going to make this Musgrave texture, which if you want to know what it looks like, I'll just quickly create one over here. It looks like this. And what it does is the black areas are going to be this like zero area where it's really they're going to be this area where it's really rough, and the white areas are going to be the area where it's quite reflective. But I don't want it to go from just pure gray up to really high white. So I'm going to turn this white down. Oops, I'll select that. So it's not quite as white. Actually, the white is not what I want. I want it to be more gray here. Like that. So now it's kind of got some roughness on it, but it's not really uniformly distributed over this model. So let's go ahead and add a texture coordinate. I'm going to use the object information, and it's going to get distributed evenly over the whole model. So there's just a little bit more detail here than what was there before. It's got like some smudge marks on it and so on. Okay, and that's all going into the roughness. But let's say I put it into the metallic component of it, and then I turn the roughness quite down. Well, we get a different effect. It almost looks like marble in this case. I don't actually want that. I'm going to put it back into roughness and take it out of the metallic part. So it kind of looks like it's been dirtied up. So that's pretty good. I could change the scale of this. So if I make it smaller, I'm going to get bigger areas. I can play around with this. I can play around with the level of detail. And some other stuff there as well. And you can play around with these different things here. Now there are multiple textures. So let's say, for example, I add in a wave texture. I'll just demonstrate how this might work. I'll take the object into that vector, and I'll take the, just for example, I'll take the color into the base color of this here. And I get this really funky texture happening here. I don't want that. I think it looks stupid, but I will put it into, say if I put it into metallic. Now I don't actually want the color mode, I want the FAC, which will do some other stuff. So it makes it partly metallic, and the parts that aren't metallic are that base gray color. So we can create a whole lot of cool stuff with this. In this case, it's kind of put the specularity on there, and it kind of makes it look like it's had some kind of weird metal treatment. I might actually leave that on there. I'm not sure it looks the best, but I'll leave it. Now you can play around with these different nodes. Generally, you want to take a texture coordinate through a texture, and then sometimes through a color ramp, especially if it's just like you want to change. It kind of requires you to understand how these textures are generated over here. Generally, they're black and white texture. And then we can take it through a color ramp and convert all the black into a certain color, or the white into a certain color, or just ignore any black that's below a certain range, and so on. And then we plug it into one of this, and then we go up to the material output up here. I'll bring it back here, and that looks pretty good. We've got a metal shader down here, and it has A certain amount of roughness on it. It's not fully reflective in there. It looks like it's got some smudges and some marks on it. It's definitely been used. Okay, in the next video, we'll look at adding the leather material, and then the final video we'll look at unwrapping this model here.